Small crowd here just a short time ago, how depressing it was to dig down through 10 feet of ash and come to nothing more but more twisted metal, which we can see down here at the end of the street. Sometimes when the smoke clears, there's still one or two buildings on fire. However, the beginning of the search and rescue operation is underway, and the morning should reveal a lot more.
Okay, Bill, thank you very much for that contribution, making the point that it's taken 12 hours, more than 12 hours, before the search and rescue operation can really get underway in earnest. And when dark settled over New York City, days, as we pointed out, getting shorter in every part of the country now, lights were brought in from New Jersey and from Connecticut so that that eerie atmosphere that you've seen on prior disasters, though never one of this magnitude in the country and in others, begins to take hold. But it does enable search and rescue operations to go on through the night, and the National Guard, I think it was the Air National Guard from New Jersey, brought in a lot of lights to the New York scenes. Meanwhile, we try to have some appreciation of the mood elsewhere in the country, as well as here. But just take a look. Look at the faces and the demeanor of these people who have worked in a state of their own shock, perhaps. And beyond them in the distance tonight, it'll be very hard for any of us to forget that last skeletal piece, looking like a piece of architecture, which of course it is, there in the distance as the shifts change tonight, of the front of one of the trade towers. It's the only thing that is left standing, to the best of our knowledge, is a piece of the building which is at one of its entrances on the west side of the building facing the Hudson River, that last skeleton of the doorway, of the main doorway that stands there, stretched out into the night as this reminder of all of the tragedy that occurred behind it and now below it. That's what it looked like this morning on the right, and that is what it looked like before the sun set here in New York today. Let's go to Chris Bury, who has reported today on the mood in Memphis, Tennessee.
Like so many places, this city of just under 1 million along the Mississippi River was in mourning and on edge. Downtown, the city's tallest buildings were evacuated just in case. Government offices closed early. Even Beale Street, the famous Memphis strip of jazz and blues joints, was all but deserted.
It was all just scary to me. And thinking about Memphis being, to me, a major city, I mean, could we be next?
Here at the Memphis airport, a major regional hub for Northwest Airlines, hundreds of stranded passengers had been diverted from other destinations. Indeed, many of them were in the air, on their way to other cities when the planes they were in were ordered to land here at Memphis.
So we landed and actually got to the gate before we really knew what was going on. And they'd assured everybody that everybody was safe, and the plane was okay, and we were in no danger, but they did not tell us why we were being pulled from the air.
With all domestic air traffic shut down, every single terminal screen here told the same story. In Memphis alone, more than 500 flights were canceled. The airlines scrambled to find enough buses for passengers headed to cities as far away as Dallas and New Orleans. Home of Federal Express, Memphis normally handles more air cargo than any place in the world. Now its planes are frozen on the field, awaiting trucks to carry their contents. The tragedies touched Memphis in more personal ways, of course. This woman's cousin works at the World Trade Center.
I was at work when I heard, and we turned on television ahead, and we're trying to call ever since, and the lines are busy, can't get any word, from anybody, so. And, I mean, when I saw the first tower go down, I just started crying because I knew.
So even Memphis, so geographically removed from New York and Washington, clearly felt the aftershocks, driving home the point that no American city is an island in today's reign of terror. Chris Bury, ABC News, Memphis.
The perfectly apt closing reminds us, as we've said so many times today, that this is a national tragedy, and Chris Bury reminding us And many people may have thought it when the entire aviation system came to a halt today, of course, that FedEx is this important hub for FedEx aircraft that travel all over the country. Much of the FedEx material, as do other transportation services, mail services, go through a central hub. And this is a reminder of the economic effect on the country today, because as Lisa Stark told us a little while ago, the Federal Aviation Administration is not going to let the aviation system get up and running again in the United States. And this may also apply to Canada, though we're not sure at this point until some point about noon tomorrow. Our coverage on ABC News and at abcnews.com and in radio will continue. We're going to have a quick change of shift here, but ABC News coverage will continue, period. Thank you very much. I'm Peter Jennings. Elizabeth Vargas is here. Elizabeth Vargas.
This is an ABC News special report.
So Elizabeth Vargas is going to take over the anchor chair here for a spell while teams of our reporters and I go away and try to
It's much needed.
Well, it's not the rest issue here, quite frankly. It's important to get away and appraise what is happening in the country from a broader perspective than just sitting here, as you will find in the next several hours. But thank you very much. And thank everybody else at ABC News who's made a contribution to our understanding today. We're all in awe of the effort that the firefighters and the police are making, military is making at the Pentagon. So
Indeed.
Yeah, you've seen it from the outside. Now you have to work it from the inside. Thanks, Elizabeth, very much.
This is, as Peter just said, ABC News continuing coverage of that terrorist attack on the United States. I am Elizabeth Vargas, and the grim task of searching for victims of the attack on New York's World Trade Center is continuing around the clock. Trade Center, ABC's Bill Blakemore joins us live from Lower Manhattan. Bill, have they been able to extricate any victims, any survivors so far from this wreckage?
Well, we understand from Mayor Giuliani that they have pulled out a couple of Port Authority police officers who were trapped in the wreckage. That was a little bit earlier this evening. And we have seen a great deal more of activity here this evening from the large search and rescue operations that have been staging here throughout the day. We've seen a great deal of heavy machinery moving up and down here as they're beginning to move some of the rubble from around the outsides of the base of the trade towers. But as perhaps you can tell from the scene behind me there, there's still a great deal of smoke and dust coming up from the base of the trade towers themselves. People just coming just now told us it's still on fire there. So there's still a great deal of problem with heat in the center of the scene. And a couple of buildings around the edge are also still on fire. They're starting their search and rescue operations with a little bit of good news on the periphery, but there's still basic problems before they can get the full operation underway.
Buildings in the area were still safe. Have they been able to establish if, in fact, everything is stable in that area?
In fact, we're still hearing reports that a couple of buildings appear that they may not be stable, that something else could still come down. There's a couple of areas the police are making sure nobody is getting near. There's an enormous logistics problem because of all of this heavy machinery down here. The lights are out, and on the dark streets to the left and to the right of me here, every now and then we see large motorcades of big machinery moving by with their lights as the people coordinating this try to get the right machinery in the right place. But beyond that, they're really waiting for morning, which is a few hours away yet, before they can really see clearly what the devastation is.
And I know that must be an incredibly eerie sight down there. We've been seeing some pictures coming into our newsroom here of the smoke, of the wreckage, of the flames. Can you describe what that's like?
Well, eerie is indeed the right word. We have the acrid smell in the air of smoke. The dust is just everywhere and settling more and more on the outlying streets around here. Because they've had to turn off the gas and the electricity in the center of town here for firefighting reasons, there is this bizarre warlike feel. There's only the harsh light that comes from the floodlights that they've managed to move in. Beyond that, we have tired, exhausted groups of rescue workers and policemen standing around, some of them who've come out, some of them waiting to go in.
Thank you so much for that report. Stay there. Stay tuned. We'll be checking back with you in just a few moments. There were two attacks, as we've been telling you. One was at the World Trade Center. The other was at the Pentagon. And despite heavy damage at the Pentagon, it is scheduled to open today, even as officials deal with what appears to be a staggering death toll. ABC's Jim Sciutto is live at the Pentagon. Jim, they've already updated it from 100 to possibly 800 fatalities.
Well, Elizabeth, there have been a lot of estimates of casualties, but there was a press conference here with the Arlington fire chief a short time ago, and he actually backed off that 800 figure. Earlier in the day, he'd given an estimate of between 100 and 800 dead possibly here at the Pentagon, but he said a short time ago that 800 figure is a high-end estimate, that really all they know now is that 67 people who were on that plane definitely died. From there, they're really just speculating at this point. The Pentagon is still on fire. Just a few moments ago, we saw flames breaking through the roof of the Pentagon as the firemen do what is called trenching, where they break open the roof to get access to the flames. When they do that, it provides more oxygen, the flames jump up. But you can see them again behind me now spraying the roof with water. As you mentioned before, though, this is still an active building. We received a call just about a half hour ago from someone in the Joint Chiefs of Staff Crisis Action Team, and he said just on his team there are 500 to 1,000 people at work right now in the building. And tomorrow morning the Pentagon is going to be open for business. A small part of it, about a third of the building, is going to be closed off, but still it's going to be in business tomorrow, and it is in business right now, people working. They say that the search and rescue for victims is being suspended now while they try to control the flames, one, and two, make the building safe, because this is an unsteady building. They're peeling away the layers to make sure that the search and rescue workers are not in danger as they look possibly for survivors. The fire chief saying again in this press briefing that he still has hope that there are survivors inside, but he says that it could take as long as a week, search and rescue and also search and recovery of any bodies. Elizabeth.
All right, Jim Sciutto, stand by. We'll check in with you as the evening progresses as well, or the morning now. As Americans watched in horror yesterday, so did most of the other people around the world. ABC's Jim Wooten has the view from overseas.
As word moved across the Atlantic to here in Europe and beyond, the first focus was on Afghanistan, where officials of the Taliban government not only condemned the attacks, but insisted for whatever it's worth that Osama bin Laden is forbidden to use the country as a base for terrorism, and is in no position to do so, though he's believed to have planned previous terrorism from there. In the Middle East,
we are completely shocked.
Yasser Arafat offered condolences from the Palestinian people to America, a sympathy not shared by more militant Palestinians in Jerusalem or these Muslims celebrating in Lebanon. Generally, from leaders of Palestinian militant groups, there were denials of responsibility, but condemnations of U.S. policy in the region.
We call upon the American administration to review their attitude and their policy towards the Palestinian question, because this policy arouses the anger and the hatred of our people.
Russian President Vladimir Putin extended his condolences, then at U.S. request canceled major military maneuvers by the Russian Air Force. There was heightened security at American embassies around the world, including Berlin, where German citizens brought flowers to the gates as a memorial, and as air traffic into and out of London's Heathrow Airport was delayed, flights to the U.S. were canceled indefinitely. British Prime Minister Tony Blair had this to say.
This mass terrorism is the new evil in our world today. It is perpetrated by fanatics who are utterly indifferent to the sanctity of human life. And we, the democracies of this world, are going to have to come together to fight it together and eradicate this evil completely from our world.
That was ABC's Jim Wooten on the worldwide reaction to what happened yesterday.